Welcome to Dialogues of Desire,
Non-monogamy unscripted.
the podcast where we're rewriting the rules of relationships.
So grab your intimacy and exploration passports and join us from the very beginning
As we embark on an unscripted, unfiltered journey
into the world of non-monogamy.
Welcome back. This is Dialogues of Desire.
Non-monogamy unscripted.
My name's Britt,
And I'm Sophie.
and today we're talking about honesty versus transparency.
You may think that they're the same thing, but they are apparently not,
No,
as we've learned.
exactly.
As I've been trying to tell Britt for the last 16 months. I don't think I could explain it though,
Well,
as efficiently as the reel that you saw.
yes. I was flicking through Instagram and I came across this reel which, explained to me the difference between honesty and transparency. To me, they were the same thing when Soph was talking about it, wanting transparency in her relationship. And I'm like, well, I'm being honest, like I don't understand. But yeah, this reel just like flicked a switch, boom, light bulb moment. And they are different, and transparency is very important in a relationship.
So is honesty, but I think they kind of play a little bit different roles at different times.
Correct.
And with different people.
Yeah. So honesty is when you share information, truthful information, but you don't give up some of the details.
Yeah.
Well, you're not forthcoming of it. You know, like you have to be probed to get some of that information.
Yeah.
But those answers are being honest.
Yeah. So they're honest answers. You're not lying.
Yeah.
But as you said, you're not forthcoming with that information.
Correct. Where transparency is.
Volunteering information freely without being asked.
Yeah.
So,
for example, I've got an example. Well, I'll use the example that they said, which light bulb moment for me. Honest is Sophie being like, where did you go last night? And I'll be like, oh, I was just at the pub. And you're like, who else was there? Oh, Ella and George were there. Whereas transparency is, hey, babe, I'm going to go to the pub. Ella and George will be there. And possibly like Talia. You know everyone that's there, what's happening kind of thing.
yeah, I don't have to, like, get the information out of you.
Yeah. And
Or you
then
don't
you're
have
more inclined to, I guess, be more trusting of that.
Yeah, and I think that's why I've struggled so much sometimes in where I would have to probe all the time, but just about, like, even trivial things.
Yeah.
I'm like, just be transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've really heard about it was with you. And I guess I didn't fully understand it until I came across that reel, and it's so true that's really how you should be.
And I think in the past with you though, and I mentioned this in the last episode, I think, but about when I've told you about the people that I've dated before or friends that I've dated, I was transparent with that information. And you'd be like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because I don't want you to kind of find out and then think that I was hiding that information.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you were like, why is it necessary? And I'm like, well, if we're going to do this thing and if you're going to meet my friends or whatever, then I don't want to be kind of telling you later and feeling awkward about it.
And I think it's important in relationships, but especially in non-monogamous relationships. And I think that's why I feel so secure in this, is because you've been so transparent throughout the whole thing. I'm not having to ask you who you're talking to or are you on dates. You're very like, yep, I'm on this site, I'm chatting to this person, and I'm aware of everything that's going on, essentially. But that's been because you're being transparent.
That's right. Another example is when people from my past have come up and I've just said, this person messaged me, and it's hard to hear sometimes, especially if it's people that you just don't expect to come back into your life or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard to hear, but if I'd not said anything and somehow you found out and you had that kind of missing piece of, well, hang on, how did this all begin? It's a bit shit for you. So I think in the beginning of a relationship, honesty can help to build the foundations of trust. I don't think transparency in some ways is necessary. It is in terms of like, what do you want?
Yeah.
But you need transparency as your relationship progresses.
Yeah.
So then you know that you're on the same page.
Yeah. You don't feel like there's secrets being had as well.
Exactly. Because you could be honest about where you're at. And for example, I don't want a relationship, I just want sex. But if it's when the other person prompts that, then it's a bit shit.
So basically, transparency reinforces trust by making you feel like people aren't having secrets, like being forthcoming with information.
Yeah, avoiding secrecy.
Yeah. And that's essential for any relationship.
Absolutely. It's like the whole lying by omission, you know? So,
Well, yeah, you say lying by omission in the sense that you're not being forthcoming of information. You're not lying, but you're also not telling the truth.
yeah.
You're withholding information, whether it is to, like, not hurt the person. I guess it's the same as, like, doing one of those, like, white lies in the sense that it's there to kind of, you do it so that the other person doesn't get hurt, but really they do get hurt because you've essentially lied, or you haven't, by not telling the truth or being transparent with the truth, you're essentially lying or having a secret.
Yeah. So if you tell a partial truth and you're partially honest, you can sometimes still be lying by that omission, right?
And you still make then your partner, I guess, question, what else are they not telling me?
As I was saying, there is value in transparency in non-monogamous relationships, especially because it avoids assumptions, but it can also cause overwhelm if the other person isn't prepared for it. So sometimes maybe, like we had in the conversation about boundaries, you talk about what are you willing to hear, what are you not willing to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Or when making sure that you do have capacity to listen to that.
That's right.
Or talk about that at that time.
Yeah. And especially when it comes to for example, what I've done with somebody, that could be really detrimental to you if I just start blurting out really explicit details.
Yeah.
And that could actually be really traumatizing and feel really yucky. So
Yeah.
transparency comes with a few things that you need to talk about beforehand.
Yeah.
It's particularly in non-monogamy.
Yeah.
An example of where you might want to be transparent to then only be honest, stay with me, is like there's something that you were going through that was really triggering to me because of my own life stuff, and I had to say maybe like put some boundaries up in terms of your transparency with how much you're telling me.
Yeah.
But I still want you to be honest, but I don't want all the details about that situation because it relates to mine so much, and it's quite triggering for me, and I had to kind of distance myself from that.
Yeah.
So honesty is definitely important when needed.
Yeah. You should still be honest. We're just saying to make sure that the other person doesn't have to probe you all the time.
Particularly when it comes to matters that might hurt the other person.
Yeah. I guess I wonder if honesty is sufficient when you're going on these new dates with people. If I do just want honesty, or if when you're building these connections, if I do want some transparency. And I think, like what you've been saying, I think I do probably would like a mix between the two. I would like some transparency if like feelings and stuff start to get more serious. But in relation to dates, I probably just want honesty, being like, I went on a date. I don't really need to know too much more details, and you don't need to be too forthcoming, I guess.
Yeah.
With that, just for my own things. What do you think about the ideas of transparency and, I guess, honesty when building new connections?
Yeah, I think that's important. I think exactly what you said. Be honest about what has gone on, what the dynamic is, but not necessarily the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah.
And then being transparent if and when feelings change.
Yeah.
But also respecting the other person, like especially in terms of sex and things. I'm not going to tell you the nitty-gritty,
No, you need some privacy, and so do they.
That's
well.
That's right. That's what I mean. Especially when you're going into this and you've got a podcast, it's like it's not very nice if people are just sharing
everything,
dirty details. I think some couples like to come back and tell each other, the dirty stories because that's what gets them off, which is cool too. But if it's in relation to more serious connections, then I wouldn't be sharing that sort of information. And even, otherwise. It's just about considering your partner's comfort level and readiness to hear certain things as well.
Yeah.
And there may be times where I do have to be transparent, even if you're not sure you want to hear something, if it is really important.
Yeah, exactly. all things which we're learning and figuring out as well.
So on the podcast from a few weeks ago, we spoke about your boundaries a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
And we talked about transparency in that sense. But it also comes with responsibility. So if I share information with you, being able to hold space for you to be able to accept what I've said, lean into what I've said.
Own what you've said.
Yeah, rather than me just being like dumping this transparency on you, all this information,
Yeah.
and then pissing off or not being there to kind of navigate that with you and make you feel comfortable in what I've said. So you have to be able to have the ongoing conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you can't just be like, oh, this is what I did, and then have no responsibility for what you've done or any questions that may come up.
Yeah. But it's like what we've always said, like, ask one question, then follow up with like another question. Like, you know, just constantly ask questions. It's a continual kind of process of that. And I think that's what makes this relationship special and we'll work through this is because we both ask questions to try and understand each other, where that person's at. We're being transparent with each other and honest.
I think it's built, I mean, even in the last week or so that you've adopted this new transparency thing, even just in terms of life stuff, general life stuff, it's helped so much.
Yeah.
Even about the day, because sometimes
I'm telling you honestly what I kind of want to do, but I'm not like being transparent with my thoughts, you know? Like,
well, I don't want to get into your head, but I'm like, how do you see this day going, for example?
yeah.
Be transparent about what you want to do if you want to get things done. Whereas sometimes
I
might
kind of
not understand.
I write a list in my head and I'm just like doing this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Or like if I'm like, if I've planned something and we're not end up doing that, then I'm like in my own head, like having this like breakdown because I'm like, fuck, I haven't done that. But you don't even know what I've got planned up in my head. So
That's right.
you're like, why the fuck are you bonking it right now?
Yeah, so you could say to me the day before, I've got stuff to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's honest, but transparency might be...
I guess you've been transparent in the last week because you've got that important thing coming up and you've let me know that you said, hey, just letting you know, the next couple of weeks I'm going to be quite stressed. And...
yeah, so initially it was just like, I've got this thing coming up, it's in my head or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's on my mind. But I had to be really transparent and be like, look, this is coming up. This is so distressing for me. I'm acknowledging that I might have some down days and maybe some freakouts and just be gentle with me.
Yeah. But I appreciate that too because then I know where you're at and I can also be like, okay, I can sense that you're a bit more stressed. I'm going to be just like a bit more chill, or I can like alter my, I guess, attitude and behavior so that I'm also not freaking you out or stressing you out.
Yeah.
More so when you're already up here, your cup's really full and little things are just going to make you overflow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I had so much capacity. I might just need a bit more space, or, you know, I couldn't be like, go out. But be honest and be like, I think I need some time alone to navigate this thing in my head because I've got this important meeting coming up and whatever.
Yeah.
Rather than be like, I think you should just like get the fuck out of the house and leave me alone. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
You know? Along with just word vomiting the transparency, you do need to be mindful of like your tone and timing and whether it's actually a good thing to do and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So are you being transparent out of guilt, or are you being transparent because you think it'll strengthen the connection or whatever?
Exactly. A bit like last week's episode on truth v harmony, picking your time as to when to be truthful versus when to be harmonious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like truth is so important, but there are still times when you need to be
mindful of other things.
Yeah. And be a little bit more in harmony.
Exactly.
Because I think that sometimes if we said every single truth, what we believe to be true, we can come across some issues.
Yeah.
So I guess at the end of the day, it's all about communicating effectively and meeting your partner where they're at, but also being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And understanding that by being transparent, it doesn't mean that you lose anything.
Yeah.
It shouldn't mean that you lose anything, because if anything, it should strengthen your relationship. And if you believe that being transparent might hinder the relationship, then have those conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Be transparent with that.
Be transparent with that at least.
Yeah. I really liked you bringing in, I guess, self-awareness as well. Like, I think you do need to have some self-awareness in relation to, I think, like, being honest and transparent with yourself as well. Being like, why am I saying this?
Yes.
Why am I not, like, I am telling the truth and being honest here, but I'm not being forthcoming. Why aren't I being forthcoming? Like, am I hiding something? But yeah, I think listening to that reel definitely changed my mind frame into how I want to communicate, I guess, with you, and going forward, how I would like you to communicate with me. You've always been very transparent, which thank you very much for that. Because it just makes you feel more secure in this relationship, because I know that you're not hiding anything from me. There doesn't feel like there's any secrecy, even though I thought I was being honest, which I was. It's really important to make sure that you are forthcoming with details when necessary.
Yeah. Like, we don't need to know everything about each other's lives. But I think if there's room for interpretation that might be like negative, then perhaps being transparent can help.
Yeah. You don't want, like, to stop somebody assuming things. Firstly, you then have to be transparent and be like, hey, I don't want to assume things, but da da da. But I shouldn't allow you to assume things as well. I should give you enough information so your brain's not running wild. And if it ends up running wild with the transparent information I've given you, well, then you need to, like, be honest and show your truth and speak up as well.
Yeah. And also, that self-reflection piece of, okay, well, they are being open or transparent.
Why aren't I accepting of that information?
Yeah. I think it's really done wonderful things for our relationship.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
Just make things so much easier.
But I can just see it in the way you also, I guess, respond to me. Now that I'm, like, might be doing a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
But being transparent with different information and stuff, I have to, I guess, trust that I'm telling you this information, don't, like, get angry or whatever, and trust that you're going to respond in a way. But I think you're not then asking me these questions and then I'm reacting, being like, don't you trust me? Like, I think I was doing that. I was like, why aren't you, like, accepting of my information? Like, I'm being honest. Like, and I was being, I guess, I was reacting and being, like, defensive. And I'm like, why am I being defensive? Like, and I think that was kind of an issue for me, was that I was, being defensive because I was being honest, but I wasn't being forthcoming with that information. So I can see now that,
like, I shouldn't have had to ask about a certain thing.
So now that I'm being more transparent, there's, like, you haven't really been asking those questions where I felt like you didn't trust me. So I feel, okay, great, like, our relationship's, like, really elevating itself, which is really nice.
It is nice. Well, because I think also when there's, like, a little bit of maybe a stressful day or something, I had to guess what was going on a lot of the time. Or when I asked, sometimes when you're so heightened or I'm so heightened, you can't actually express what you feel. But now that we've had that conversation and, you know, you said, like...
What did I say the other day? I've just got an email.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about it right now, but it is from da-da-da, and...
I'm a little bit stressed. Rather than just being stressed.
Or being a moody fucker. And then you'd be like, what's wrong? And me like, nothing.
Yeah.
and you're being like, is she mad at me? What's happened? The energy's off. I'm now having to walk on eggshells. I've just told you, hey, feeling a bit anxious. It's because of this. Please don't ask any questions until like I done my Sudoku and got my mind off it.
Yeah. But in the meantime, it's like I've been affected by your mood because I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You can have your time to process, but just giving that little bit of information of just received something really shit, like I'm just in a mood, makes it so much easier to deal with. And if you need space or anything like that,
Exactly.
then you can just say, I just need some space.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It helps the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much for listening to Honesty versus Transparency. Hopefully you've got a few takeaways and you can bring that into your relationships with not just monogamous, non-monogamous. Take it away with your friends, family as well.
Yeah, and let us know how you go.
We're going to post a few questions on our Instagram to get your mind going.
So check that out.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye. I watched a reel on that the other day. 1, 2, 1, 2. I just wasn't prepared for that, babe. What?
Your lips
know,
are
because it's 24-hour, babe. It doesn't come off. Not your fault.
Oh, fuck.
Yes, correct. Oh, no, don't get the laughs.
Yeah, we haven't had the laughs in ages.
I know. That's why I have to just keep a straight face sometimes. Otherwise, I'll piss myself. Stop. Say it with confidence, baby, because you are a confident person.
Confidence, baby.
Oh, go.
What do we do?
Transparency.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Dialogues of Desire.
We hope you've enjoyed the conversation and maybe even learned something new.
If you loved what you heard or we've piqued your curiosity, make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
We'll be sharing the latest and greatest content there, so you don't want to miss out.
And don't keep all this juicy goodness to yourself. Share our podcast with friends, family, or anyone you think might enjoy listening.
The more the merrier, right? Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep those conversations flowing. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are recording, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.
We recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. We extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. The views discussed in this podcast are our own and are evolving with our continuing experiences and ongoing knowledge.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not replace the advice of a health professional.